Chalmers and Dolan, traveling to Brizeran's castle, are captured by Sir Artegall and Belphoebe. Chalmers puts a weakness spell on everyone, and the 5 of them are captured by the Durga, who intend to sacrifice them to their gods. We'll pick up near the bottom of the PDF page 150, where Harold Shea mutters out of the side of his mouth, does everyone know where we are?
Do you know
Yes,
what
I
page?
see where we are.
Okay, great.
What page is that?
50.
But in
What
the
is
book?
what is the line?
The paragraph
Does
starts
the paragraph start with a barbarian was cutting his bonds?
with yes.
Yes.
Yeah, why don't we start with the narrator so it does put
Okay.
Okay.
Harold Shea on the spot.
I'm sorry. My book is old, and I had marked that we stopped at 3 Men
Okay.
and Long by
Yeah,
Roach,
so
so I don't
it
know
looks-
where we are.
Okay, it looks like you may not have lines then. Your lines would have been up further up the page. So I think you're okay. I'll need the druid very soon. But
I still
So you
don't quite know
you
where
don't
we
need
are.
me.
I've got the
Oh.
book, so I'm trying to find the. where we
Okay.
I have a hard copy of the book.
Oh, I've
And
got it.
it's
The
on
barbarian
page-
was cutting his bonds.
Yeah.
yes,
Okay,
that's
yeah, I
where
got it.
we're starting.
Thank you.
And
And who's the druid?
Atlantica, and she will be coming in with the druid turned. So,
Okay, ready?
Lila, yes.
A barbarian was cutting his bonds. 2 others heaved him and Belphoebe to their feet and supported them by the arms. Their expressions were of rapt ecstasy. Shay muttered out of the side of his mouth.
Hey, Belphoebe, if I can get you out of this, will you call a truce till we can explain?
The girl nodded. The druid, with the knife, took his place at the altar. Another came over to the captives, faced about, and started to lead them. Summoning all his strength, Shay barked.
Hey, Mr. Priest!
The druid turned. He had a kindly expression.
Now, laddie, it's no good shouting. Sure, 'tis an honor to be the first to go to the gods.
I know it. But don't you think the gods will be satisfied with a bunch of weak fish like us, do you?
True enough for you, but the gods do be giving credit when a man offers the best he has, and faith, you are that.
You could make us better, though. We're under a spell. You're a pretty good magician. Why not take this weakness off us?
The druid's expression was cunning.
I'm thinking you're saying that for your own benefit and not for ours. But 'tis rare good sense you speak, my boy.
He looked at Shay, then at Belphoebe, and waved his hands toward them, mumbling. Shay felt the force flow back into his body. The old priest addressed the 2 with him.
Hold them tight now, lads. It wouldn't do at all, if they used their strength to get away.
The rough hands of the Dedurga clamped down on Shay's arm till he winced. He saw that Belphoebe wasn't enjoying their grip either. He held himself relaxed, as though putty in their hands. The procession approached the altar. The piper was red-faced, but seemed to be maintaining himself by that unique power all pipers have of keeping going long after ordinary people would have collapsed for lack of breath. Shay's feet dragged. The druid with the knife awaited him with the supremely peaceful expression of a man who is rendering his own happiness sure by a great and noble act. The altar was only 4 paces away. He glanced toward Belphoebe. 3. She was looking anxiously at him, as though awaiting a signal. 2. He felt what he was waiting for. The relaxation of the tired, sweaty hands of the huskies. 1. It was now or never. Shay snapped his left heel up and back. It hit a hairy kneecap, and the barbarian went down with a yell of pain. He let go. Shay spun around on the other heel, driving his left knee into the other guard, and at the same time punching him in the Adam's apple. The second guard, not expecting this demoniac burst of energy, let go and dropped, strangling in the agony of the throat punch. What followed took seconds. The other 2 guards got their signals crossed, and instead of one of them holding Belphoebe, both let her go to run at Shay. The woods girl pounced on the druid with the knife and sank her teeth into his hand. The guards were good, rough-and-tumble fighters, but under the handicap of having to take their captives unharmed. Shay was under no such inhibition. He jabbed one in the eyes with his fingers and kicked the other in the belly. Somebody screeched. Belphoebe ran past with a bloody knife in her hand, yanking Shay after her. The other Dodurga were too dumbfounded by the sacrilege to interfere. Shay and Belphoebe raced through a hole in their circle just as the barbarians began reaching for their broadswords. Then they were among the trees, running madly. Belphoebe glided ahead of Shay without even breathing hard. He guessed she could leave him behind if she wished. She seemed to know the woods by instinct. She swerved right, squeezed between a pair of trunks, down to a brook, splashed along its bed for 50 yards, and ran off into the woods again.
Up!
Cried Belphoebe suddenly, and climbed a trunk with the agility of a small boy, lending a hand to help Shay. They crouched together in a crotch and listened. Scattered sounds of pursuit came, now here, now there. The Dodurga had spread and were beating the woods. Shay and Belphoebe held themselves still, almost breathless. There was a rustle of snapped twigs, and a pair of the barbarians walked past a few yards from their tree, leading one of the huge dogs.
Search is a terrible thing. 3 men cut up and one of them a holy man. Atlantica?
Sorry, I didn't realize I was at the Durga. A wicked, cruel thing, and poor Phaon with his lovely neck all broke in. It's inhuman monsters they are, these 2.
The sounds died. They waited, and Shay explained his and Chalmers' plan to her in a whisper. Belphoebe gave Shay a level glance. Apparently satisfied with his sincerity, she asked,
Why said you not so sooner, good squire?
I couldn't in front of Dolan without giving the whole show away. If you don't believe me, Britomart will give us good characters. Honest.
You mean you plan still to go on with this witless scheme?
Of course. If we can rescue our people.
You think Article would let Dolan go?
I don't know Article. But you're right. He's the kind that once he gets an idea, he won't change it for hell or high water.
You should be a court jester, Squire Harold. But your wit is well taken. That describes Article exactly.
Well, we'll have to see to it that Article can't interfere till we've left.
Nay, in honor, I cannot take the side of that foul enchanter.
Look, Belphoebe, use your head. The Knights of Faerie have been trying for years to catch up with these enchanters, haven't they?
That is good, sooth.
And they haven't made out very well, have they?
Gentle squire, you argue like a doctor. but I fear me you are right.
All right, this riding around in an iron shirt and knocking off an occasional enchanter isn't going to get you anywhere either. Now, my boss and I have a plan for getting into their organization and rounding up the whole batch at once. Why not let us try?
But how shall I...
Oh, tell Artigol we made a private truce to escape the Dodurga, and one of the conditions was that we had to get a head start before...
He stopped, listening. Faintly, the drone of bagpipes wafted to them. Belphoebe
The
cried.
ceremony has begun again. Haste, or our friends are sped.
She began to climb down, but as they went, Shay asked,
What can we do?
I'm not without some knowledge of things in the woods and their secret ways.
She dropped to the ground and started to whistle a strange little tune. When the whistle reached an ear-piercing pitch, a unicorn came trotting forward. It nuzzled up to her, pawing the ground, and she vaulted onto its back.
How about me?
Belphoebe frowned.
Right. Glad would I be to have you ride with me. But I misdoubt this steed will bear the weight, and they are ever jealous beasts, not liking to go 2 by 2. You could hold the tail.
That seemed unsatisfactory, but Shay thought, after all, I know some magic and ought to be able to conjure one up, and a conjured unicorn probably won't object to this one.
If you show me that brook, I'll see what I can do.
He composed his incantation on the way to the stream. At its banks, he made a model, as well as he could, of the animal's head in wet sand, and stuck a stick in it for a horn. Then he recited,
O steed that feeds on the lightning and drinks of the whirlwind's surge, in the name of the horse of Heimdall, I conjure you now, emerge, strong and docile and valiant, decked with a single horn, in the name of the horse of Muhammad, I conjure you to be born.
The book exploded outward with a whoosh of spray. Shay jumped up and rubbed the water from its eyes, then rubbed them again to make sure. Once more the traveler's magic had been almost successful. Standing in the creek was a fine, big bull Indian rhinoceros. Shay had a moment of panic. Then he remembered that the bad reputation of the rhinoceros tribe is based on the cantankerousness of the two-horned black rhino of Africa. Anyway, he couldn't fool around conjuring up more animals. As he had asked for a docile one, this was presumably it. He landed astride the rhino's back. The rhinoceros might be docile, but it was unaccustomed to riders. When it recovered from the shock of its arrival in an unfamiliar section of space-time, it scrambled out of the creek and galloped off through the trees in the wrong direction. Shay dug his fingers into the folds of its armor and hung on, yelling at Belphoebe.
Hey, see if you can herd this thing.
The rhino, seeing the unicorn on its right, charged, snorting and baring its incisor tusks. The unicorn whirled aside and poked the rhinoceros in the ribs as it lumbered past. The rhinoceros, now thoroughly upset, tried to flee. Belphoebe skillfully herded it toward the camp of the Dodurga. The bagpipes were louder. The rhinoceros, now more afraid of the unicorn than of this noise, headed straight for the sound. Shay clung to its back, hoping it wouldn't ram a tree. The trees sprang apart in front, and there was the camp of the Dodurga. A couple of guards held Chalmers across the altar. The druids had found another knife. Shay yelled.
Yeah!
Heads turned toward him. The upraised knife hung suspended. Shay had a blurred picture of the camp streaming past, and everywhere the backs of the Dodurga departing in a swirl of tartan. They screamed most gratifyingly. Beyond the altar, Shay tumbled off his mount and walked back. Belphoebe had already cut the bonds from the others. but stiff and weak as they were, they could not move. Chalmers? Chalmers?
I trust that you are convinced of the inadvisability of visiting the world of Irish myth, Harold.
Shay grinned.
Well, yes, since you mention it.
He turned to Dolan.
I can take this weakness off you, but I'm sure a master like you would have a much better method than anything I could use. If you give the spell to me, I'll use it instead of my own.
Marry, that I will. Few youngsters are so polite as to appreciate the powers of the masters these days. Bend down.
Artegall raised a feeble hand to Belphoebe.
What ails you, girl? Follow these caitiffs. Slay them.
The squire and I have a truce.
A truce? Make a truce with the devil or the Durga, but not with these enemies of humankind. The Queen's Majesty shall hear of this.
Shay was working the spell on Chalmers. As he got up, he grunted. Chalmers? Isn't that Chalmers?
Yeah.
Yes.
Lost doesn't have a dot next to his name. Oh, now he does. Lost?
Hi, I'm sorry, I'm having computer problems. I'm using camera's computer and it keeps wanting to shut down. Okay, so are we down below where Chalmers says thank you?
Shay was working the spell on Chalmers. As he got up, he grunted.
Thank you, Harold. Really, do we have to go on?
Shut up, Doc.
Shay didn't intend to have his delicate bit of finagling gummed up at this stage. Then he turned to Dolan and worked the spell again. The magician seemed annoyed that Chalmers should have preceded him, but it turned out to be a good idea. The moment Dolan was on his feet, he snatched up one of the discarded sacrificial knives and flung himself toward the helpless Artegall. Belphoebe tripped him as he tried to go past. Before he could get up, Shay was on his back with one hand on his neck and the other on his wrist.
Drop that.
The magician's bulbous body heaved convulsively. Shay found himself gripping the neck of an enormous snake of a python type. With horror, he felt the immense rubbery strength of the thing as it writhed a section from under him and tried to throw a coil around his body. But as the snakes have no hands, Dolan had perforce dropped the knife. Shay put the edge of it against the scaly throat.
Change back, or I'll saw your head right off.
Dolan changed back.
Are you clean daft? There's a stinking fool apprentice for you, ruining our chance to get rid of our greatest enemy.
Not at all, Master. You forget there's a truce on. Belphoebe and I agreed not to have any scrapping until we're separated.
You mean you'll keep your word with them? 'Tis against all nature, and therefore void.
Shay clamped down his grip again and turned to Artegall.
If I release you from the weakness spell, will you give me your word of honor to let us have a 2-hour start?
Fool! Dotard!
But Artegall settled the question.
Covenant with an enchanter? Not I. Slay me if you will. You shall not rid yourselves of all Gloriano's knights so easily.
He sighed at the unreasonableness of men.
Doc, watch Dolan for a minute, will you?
He got up and said to Belphoebe,
Take care of him after we go.
then more softly,
Say, how can I get in touch with you again?
she thought.
If you go not beyond the confines of this great wood, and know but how to call my unicorn of the forest, not that ungainly great beast of yours.
Can you whistle the tune?
Sorry,
Can you whistle the tune for me? Softly?
She did so, and he followed till he could do it, but she finished with a smile.
I misdoubt you could entice her close enough. These unicorns fear not maidens, but men they are greatly wary of.
Shay pondered, then drew Chalmers aside, leaving Belphoebe to guard Article against Dolan.
Doc, can you conjure up sugar?
Harold, you are a continual source of astonishment to me. I really feel quite worn out, though. I'm incapable of coherent effort.
Shay shook him by the shoulders.
Listen, Doc, I'm pretty close to the edge of collapse myself. But if you ever want to see Florimel again, you can't let me down. This is just a little applied psychology. To wit, setting up an androphiliac fixation in the libido of one female unicorn. Now go to it.
Water, charcoal from the remains of the Dodurga's cooking fires, and a cell produced a double handful of neat, patty-shaped molds of maple sugar, which Shay rather dubiously guessed would do. The unicorn sniffed suspiciously from a distance, then under Belphoebe's coaxing, teetered close enough to taste. It munched meditatively, wiggling its ears, then reached out its muzzle for more. Shay fed it another piece, then ostentatiously put the remainder in his pocket.
All right, we're off. Say, Belphoebe, maybe you better hitch J. Edgar Hoover's feet to the unicorn and haul him off before the Dodurga come back to see what happened.
He glanced at the glowering Dolan.
2 hours truce now, and you can thank heaven they took her bow away.
The dark was beginning to close in. As they reached the road, Dolan worked a spell and produced a horse. He mounted.
Hey, what about us?
I say a pox on you, prentice, for a rebellious rogue. Wend afoot and learn what it is to flout the great Dolan.
Shay put on a sly grin.
You don't understand, Master. Don't you think it pays for the chapter to have someone that the opposition thinks is a real man of honor? I'm just building myself up for the job. When we get ready to put something really good over on that bunch and catch a lot of them at once, instead of just these two, I'll come in handy.
Dolan considered a moment. Then a smile ran round his red, full lips.
Oh-ho, sits the wind so? You want that red-polled baggage, eh? Well, when we capture her, you shall have her before she goes to the torture chamber, if the chapter chooses to admit you. For I tell you fairly, I doubt you are skilled enough in the more practical forms of magic.
You confess, Dolan, that you of the chapter occasionally work at cross purposes.
Aye, it is the nature of things. For, look you, magic is an art disorderly.
But it isn't. We can show you how to change all that.
Is a strange doctrine. Do you jest?
Not at all. Didn't you notice the druid's method of doing magic?
Those priests of the Durga. Magic they have, aye, but so meagre a sort any lout can outdo them.
That's not the point. It's not what they do, but how they do it. One man invokes their gods, another changes the altar from wood to stone, and so on. One man per function, and all timed tuned to work together. That's real organization. Now, if your chapter were organized like that...
You've been trying to break down Queen Gloriana's government and set up a council of magic to rule in its place, haven't you?
Nobody had told him that, but it seemed a reasonable guess.
Aye, that we have, but the others worked singly without any such leaders, and myself to guide them.
But even you, Master, you're only one, and can't be everywhere at once. As it stands, your chapter is a professional guild. It keeps you from cutting each other's throats by competition, but that's all. You won't get anywhere just bopping off an occasional night. We can show you how to make a real organization out of it, with all the parts working together as smoothly as the fairy knights work together. The beauty of such an organization is that when it gets such a man of genius as yourself to guide it, everyone in the organization becomes a kind of extension of the leader's personality. It's just as though your chapter were made into 21 Dolas. Gloriana's government could never stand against that.
I think we gotta stop.
I think so, yes.
We got a smooth talker in Shay there. That's really funny. and Rocky, your Dolan is great.
Thank you.
Everybody's doing such a great job, huh, Myra?
Yes, definitely.